Welcome everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and this time we are talking about Mario Kart Deluxe's Booster Course Pass. Wave 6 has finally come out. I've been enjoying the new tracks, they are amazing, I've enjoyed this DLC, and I've enjoyed it so much that I thought it was worth having a discussion about how good its DLC is compared to other DLC waves or packs we've gotten from Nintendo. Is the Booster Course Pass the greatest Nintendo DLC of all time? Maybe, and that's what we're talking about today. But before going forward, let me point out that we are aiming to reach 50,000 subscribers, so if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, and enjoy the ride as we talk about Nintendo every day. And on the note of rides, this ride that has been the Booster Course Pass has been quite a spectacular one. And it's interesting because my emotions on this DLC have gone up and down. It's been a trip, a roller coaster. Because when Mario Kart Deluxe came out for the Nintendo Switch back in 2017, I was excited that we were getting Mario Kart with updated content. There were some new mechanics like the purple turbo boost, like braking during your drifts, which really benefited 200cc. They added a battle mode, an extensive one with totally new maps. The game included all the DLC, it was running at 1080p, they fixed the frame rate issue. This was a nice improvement of the game. It was a proper deluxe version of Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. And this game, as I said, included the DLC from the Wii U version, and that DLC came at a spectacular value as well. If you bought both waves together, it would be just $12. And they added 16 new tracks with the DLC, increasing the amount of tracks by 50% from the base game, along with some new characters and vehicles. So Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was already filled to the brim with content upon release. But given that it was being treated as the premier main Mario Kart title for the Nintendo Switch, I had a hope that maybe Nintendo would go back to it and add some DLC. It's been the best-selling game on Switch throughout this entire generation, even early on. And Nintendo was adding DLC to most of their major games, with some minor exceptions. But as the years drew on, it became less and less likely that Nintendo would be adding DLC to Mario Kart Deluxe. After all, it was a deluxe version of a game that already existed on Wii U that came out back in 2014. But once I lost all hope for DLC to get some new tracks in this game, out of nowhere, when we were expecting to maybe hear about the next Mario Kart, instead, we get the Booster Course Pass announced in the February 2021 Nintendo Direct. And this DLC came with a promise of 48 remade tracks from the history of the Mario Kart series, and for just $25. So when you think about it, 48 tracks compared to 16 tracks, we got 16 tracks in the Wii U for $12, while we got 48 tracks for $25 on the Switch. From a quantity of content perspective, there is more value here per dollar. And when you compare this to things like, say, Torn of the Golden Country or the total DLC pack for Xenoblade Chronicles 2 or 3, those DLCs cost $30, so they're a little bit more expensive. But do they double the amount of content in the game? No, they don't double the amount of content in the game. Maybe a third or a quarter, something like that might be more comparable. And then take a look at Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, with the two different Fighters Pass, each one costing $25 for a total of $50, only $10 shy of the total price of the base game. If we're talking about from a quantity perspective, the amount of characters and stages being added is just a small fraction of the total package in the base title. So from this perspective, I would say the Booster Course Pass is straight up the best value Nintendo has ever offered in terms of DLC. So when looking at it in this way, you could objectively argue that the Booster Course Pass is the best DLC from Nintendo of all time. But it's not just about quantity. What about quality? Because when the Booster Course Pass came out, there was a common criticism of the tracks, that they seem less detailed and less thought out than the tracks in the base game. The first 48 tracks of Mario Kart Deluxe are stellar, well, most of them are. But the tracks in the Booster Course Pass, at least early on, there's a lot of debate about them. Now, these tracks are remakes, so they're just newer versions of already pre-existing Mario Kart tracks. But what a lot of people took issue with were some missing elements, like for example, in Coconut Mall, the cars at the end were not moving around, they were static, and it led to a less climactic ending for that particular race. And visually the tracks definitely were leaving something to be desired compared to the base game's tracks. So while people were enjoying the Booster Course Pass, myself included, there was a thought that, well, given how cheap this DLC is and that a lot of us are getting it for free with Nintendo's online expansion pack, it's still nice that we're getting something even though they're not as good as the base game. But as time went on, as more waves came out, they went back and updated some of the visuals, they improved them a little bit, and they fixed some things. For example, they went back to Coconut Mall and they made the cars move again. So they were rectifying some of the issues that initially came with the first wave of the Booster Course Pass. And as time drew on, the Booster Course Pass became more and more exceptional. We learned that they weren't just going to be adding remade tracks, but new tracks as well. These Nitro tracks that were also being included in Tour, and clearly the Booster Course Pass content was being made alongside the Tour content, but we did see some new tracks throughout the Booster Course Pass, and they're all pretty great. But the surprises continued. They added item customization, and then with the latter half of the waves, they started adding new characters as well. We got a total of 8 new characters to the DLC, including Diddy Kong and Pauline and Funky Kong, some longtime favorites of the series. But with this final wave, even though they were adding 4 characters, which is quite a lot to add, they didn't just stop there. They've added a music jukebox mode and 18 new Mii costumes, along with some other optimizations including improvements to the online lobby system. The Booster Course Pass, not only from an objective perspective, offers more quantity per dollar than pretty much any Nintendo DLC I can think of, at least in terms of ratio compared to the base game, which is fairly significant. It also surprised us several times, not only with just its existence, but giving us far more than what was promised, and leaving us with an impression that I would say is fairly impressive. I've enjoyed this DLC and I'll be enjoying it for a long time to come. They've really revitalized Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and they've given it so much life, and there's just so much to do in enjoying this game. It's a real treat. Even when I saw those end credits when I beat the final Grand Prix of the Booster Course Pass, I didn't expect that, and it was nice. It's far better than the main credits of the base game. So that all said, is this the greatest Nintendo DLC of all time? I brought up some impressive DLCs like Smash Ultimate, like Torn of the Golden Country, like Future Redeemed, and these are impressive. But I think I'm going to say, and maybe my mind will change a few months down the road when I decide to revisit the Xenoblade series, but at least for now, I will say that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's Booster Course Pass is the greatest Nintendo DLC of all time. But what do you think? Do you agree? Do you have different ideas? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andres Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.